Now it's my pleasure to introduce Carol Radford. Carol is the founder and CEO of Mentoring in Action. She received her doctorate from Harvard University, where she focused her studies on teacher leadership and professional development. She began her career as a public school teacher and later went on to serve in higher education as a teacher, administrator, licensing officer, and alternative certification program director. She's a certified yoga teacher and author of 5 best-selling Corwin books. Her book, Be a Legacy Teacher, just published and is an inspiring and beautifully designed guide that helps late career and retiring teachers plan their next phase of life and ensure it's packed with meaning, joy, and opportunities to share their wisdom. It's a great gift for the retiring teacher in your life, and I was honored to be Carol's editor on it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Carol to get started. Take it away, Carol.
Thank you, Liz. I love this new book. Thank you for giving it a shout out. So I just got my hands on a copy of it this week. And if if you notice in the title, this is a book focused for late career teachers. So we are excited to stay in the profession as I am a late career teacher and a legacy teacher who has been continuing to serve the profession for the last decade, really, when I formally retired from the university. I don't know about all of you listeners out there, but when you hear your bio being read, it is a journey that makes me look back at my life and when I chose to be a teacher and all the stories that influence the decisions that I have made over time. So I chose this topic because it's December and it's a stressful time of year for everyone. And I decided I would focus on 3 strategies to help us stay inspired, to minimize stress, and to gain some clarity about decisions that we have to make. On this slide, though, I want to point out 2 organizations, in addition to Corwin, who has published my beautiful books, and give a shout out to the Positive Education Consortium, because the influence of this group, informal group of educators, we've come together, and I'm going to share some things in this webinar that I learned from this wonderful group of psychologists and educators who thrive on positive energy. And the other group is I just was invited to be a board member for the International Mentoring Association. So my work started in the field as a classroom teacher, and then I moved into supporting student teachers and their cooperating teachers. So this board membership for me really is at the very beginning of my journey, and it relates to how I feel we as a profession need to support our next generation of teachers. What I'm learning, and I'm learning constantly, is that we need to listen to our own wisdom and intuition to stay inspired. And I use it in all of my books because we need to nurture and nourish ourselves so that the next generation of teachers will find joy in the classroom or at the university or in administrative roles. I chose 3 strategies for this session because it's enough. We have to do them. So being on the webinar and hearing the magic tricks, if you will, isn't enough because we have to practice them to minimize our stress or anxiety, or just have a more, I hate to use the word balanced, but a way to maintain our balance would be a better way to say it for me. So the 3 strategies that I chose, I have been doing personally for more than 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And one of them I've been using for decades. Before we get started, though, I want to frame the conversation and my work and my life's work around the developmental continuum for educators. So in this book, Be a Legacy Teacher, that Liz has been the one who's read every word a million times. And this is my art on the cover with the trees and the branches. And here's the thing about legacy teachers. We have this wisdom. And I was inspired to write the book based on a quote from John Dewey. But we have this wisdom, but when we retire, there isn't any place in an organized way for us to share it. So as you see the screen, we have student-teacher development. That's always existed. That's the pre-service part of preparing to become a teacher. And that's actually where I started my career, is helping student teachers. And my very, very first book was techniques and strategies for coaching student teachers. And that got me into the mentoring. And we know the continuum is about professional development, which we're doing right now on this webinar. This is PD. But what was missing that I wanted to put in this legacy teacher book is what John Dewey said was, the saddest thing about US education is we lose the wisdom of our most successful teachers when they retire. And I probably saw that quote 3 or 4 years ago, and I could not get it out of my head. And I kept thinking, how can I capture that wisdom in an organized way? And at one point I thought it would be a foundation, or I wasn't sure. And an editor at Corwin said, I think this is a book. I think this is a book. And I'm like, no, not another book. And it is a book, and it has kind of been the capstone of my career to expand the continuum in the book on purpose and call the third continuum continuing service. Pre-service, in-service, continuing service. So I frame and dedicate this webinar tonight to all of you listening who are in one of these phases of development. A beginning teacher, student teacher, teacher in your first 3 years, a professional who's there, and now we have new words. We're legacy teachers, and we are continuing our service around the choices that we want to share based on our strengths. So that's the context for where I'm coming from and why I even chose to do this talk for Corwin tonight. So let's take a look at another piece of why the continuum is important and what I learned from my positive education consortium members is I learned about this called PERMA. And I did not know anything about this. I was a psychology major as an undergraduate and graduate student, but for some reason, this focus on positive psychology didn't come across as something that I focused on. So PERMA was developed by Martin Seligman. He wrote a book years ago called The Happiness Factor or something like that, which he quickly changed to PERMA, and now PERMA V is PERMA plus vitality. So let me tell you what PERMA is and how it relates to well-being and why it's so important in this conversation that we're having with each other and what we're reflecting on. Because what I'm learning is if we don't focus the well-being of our teachers, the whole teacher, the continuum that I just showed you is irrelevant, because it just becomes about the content. And what we need is the whole teacher embraced, and honored for our personal lives and our teaching lives. So P is for positive emotions. And Seligman would say these are the emotions, it's more than being happy. It is the emotions of hope, compassion, joy, and gratitude. And he goes on to talk about it in his books, and you can look him up online, but I want you to have this grounding as I share my 3 strategies, because our well-being as educators does relate to if we have a feeling, if we can feel those positive emotions. And it doesn't mean Pollyanna. It doesn't mean at the exclusion of negative emotion, negative or sadness or fear or those other emotions or anger. I know in my life, I try to stay positive and happy, but I have feelings, and you do at school and work, where it isn't always positive. But what I'm noticing more is there's an imbalance in it. So we'll talk more about that. Engagement is the second letter, and this is about being in the flow. So you know when you're in the flow, when you're engaged and you're not thinking about your grocery list, when you're not reacting, you're in the flow and you're not thinking about the past and the future. A lot of people might call it mindfulness. And I learned more about mindfulness in my yoga teacher training. Liz mentioned in my bio. Relationships, positive relationships. So many of us, we have family members that might not all be positive relationships. We have people we work with, administrators, colleagues, students. But the question in PERMA is more balancing or introducing or identifying who the positive people are in your life. M is for meaning. It's like in the Legacy Teacher book, I write a lot about finding your purpose, like what the purposefulness that you choose to contribute. And how do you make meaning out of your workday, your family life? This session isn't all about work. This is about who we are, who we're being as we step into the classroom, that human side. And the last is accomplishments and our achievements and goals, and taking time to celebrate them, because we are workaholics, we're educators, we're always working. Legacy teachers will continue to work because I know people will say, I'm a teacher. That is part of the being. All right, let's get to the strategies. That's the context. Strategy 1. You may recognize one of the people in this on the image on the screen, John Krasinski, and he created a show called Some Good News during COVID, and I was obsessed. You can go back and watch these on YouTube, but I remember it feeling like we needed someone to point out something that was going right or that was good. So my first strategy about focusing on positive emotions, it can be taken a lot of different ways. So one is just noticing that there's something good going on. I know sometimes I get up and I go, oh, my shoulder hurts and this and that. Oh, it's freezing cold. Like the first things that come up are what isn't working. So what is working is a strategy for getting into your PERMA emotion that's positive in an intentional way. It can be a teacher affirmation. So affirmations are positive statements that we make, usually an I statement. And another strategy that I love is giving someone else a compliment. So when I first wrote my mentoring books, one of the things that happened at the end of the books, was, it's a month by month curriculum. And the teachers were like, oh, Carol, that book is so big. There's so many conversations. Well, how are we going to do all this? We're all full-time teachers and we're just too busy, busy, busy. We're just so busy, busy. And of course, I was a teacher and I could relate. So at the end of the book, I designed agendas for 5 minute, 10 minute, 15 minute, 20 minute meetings. The 5 minute meeting was to give a compliment to your student teacher or your mentee. But here's the thing, when you're giving a compliment to someone else, it has to be intentional, it has to be specific, and show this authentic realization that you're passing on to another person. So if you find you can't do affirmations, you can't find some good in the day, give someone else a compliment and your whole body, spirit changes. So let's do some practice. One thing about getting positive emotions to arise in us is through yoga hand mudras. So I don't know how many people in the chat have done yoga or meditation, but I became kind of obsessed with these mudras that you did with your hands. And I learned all about this 10 years ago when I took the yoga teacher training. So let's do one together. Now I can't see you, so I'm going to trust that you can do this. So the one that I'm showing on the screen is called Hakini Mudra, and they all have names. So we hope you'll join us. So Hakini Mudra is when we have a gesture, place it kind of near your solar plexus. I'm standing up on my standing up desk, but if you're seated, just trying to drop your shoulders and just drop your shoulders. And this gesture has a purpose. It's integration. So already I've been doing a lot of talking. This is your professional development. But now we're going to drop into our bodies and just breathe. So as you inhale through your nose, you can exhale through your mouth and sigh and drop your shoulders. Let's do it again. Inhale and exhale. The purpose of Hakini Mudra, and all the gestures have different meanings, is to take all the disparate thoughts, integrate them, and have you focus on the things that are most meaningful for you in a positive way. This is a positive gesture. And what I learned in yoga teacher training, it was all about the breath. It wasn't so much the postures. And these mudras settle us. Before you release your mudra, I'd like you to think of a positive quality that you bring to your teaching, to your life, how someone might describe you. What is it that emerges that's positive, that brings forward an emotion of positivity to you, that you can acknowledge in your life? And just feel that. That's you. And for me, sometimes a positive word is enthusiasm. I get kind of excited and it is part of me. If you feel like you want to share in the chat what positive descriptor for yourself came up and what emotion you felt, feel free, but you don't need to. So release the mudra. And perhaps you would like to practice these mudras. I'm going to show you another one. This one is tuck your thumbs and wrap your fingers around like a little blanket and place it on your thighs. And that's called the mudra of stillness. So when you get totally imbalanced, holiday shopping, driving, you can just tuck your thumbs in. And students love these too. They're so easy and quick, and it brings us to a place of positivity. So let's take a little break for a moment. I'd like you to pause. So I've given you a lot of information. And if you pause for a moment and reflect and think maybe you have a question about what we've said so far or something you want to ask me, Liz, we can put the pause and question slides and think about how any of this is sitting with you so far. So you've got some context, you've got this new idea of a continuing service developmental continuum, you've got PERMA, have you ever even heard of it? And strategy 1, integrating positive emotions intentionally into our lives and maybe using these mudras as a vehicle for that. So if you have a question or a comment, Liz can share it with me, or I encourage you to kind of jot down anything you're hearing that you think you could use in your life or your work. And maybe with students, maybe with your family and your own children, how you can bring that energy back in a positive way.
Carol, Caroline had a great question.
Okay.
How can you identify positive relationships when it's difficult to find positive people in the environment? And I think that goes back to this first strategy about, and PERMA, that
Yeah.
positivity piece, positive
Yes.
emotion.
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't have the magic bullet. I think it comes back to intention of who do we hang around with? Like I remember when I was a classroom teacher and there was a lot of negativity in the teacher's room, and I hesitated to go in there. And I know people needed to have a place to vent, but it didn't help me. So I sought out positive people intentionally. Even these 2 boards that I'm on right now, I found myself through intention joining groups that were outside of maybe even my comfort zone to meet people that had that as their intention. But I also want to say, we're not going to be positive always. It's just balancing and knowing personally how to do it. Liz, how do you do it in your life? Like we all have times where we have to work with people that maybe aren't always positive. Do you have any strategies?
Absolutely. Well, I was thinking back to your idea of sharing a compliment with someone. And I think just, yeah, being a source of positivity for others can be, with something as small as a compliment, can be a beautiful way to get started.
Yes, it is. Thank you. And if anybody in the chat has a suggestion, we can shout it out to the group. But it's our intention. So here's my second strategy, engage with nature. And is there anyone who has ever tried forest bathing? This is my next one that I love to minimize my stress. And I don't know if anybody's tried it. So I was introduced to forest bathing maybe 8 years ago at a yoga retreat. I had never heard the term. I wasn't sure if it was taking a bath in the woods, but it is not. It, the term, I was shocked that it was developed or identified or defined, I guess, 30 or 40 years ago in Japan by a medical doctor. So I was very interested in learning more. So I bought a book uh, by Dr. Ching Lee, the founder of the term, and I learned about the medical rationale for taking a walk in the woods, a slow walk in the woods, and breathing in nature because there are phytoncides and all kinds of scents, which we do know, we smell them when we're in the forest, that are healing agents. So it isn't just a, a spiritual journey, and it can be that. It is medically founded to be a technique and a strategy that lowers blood pressure and takes care of our well-being generally. So I introduced it in my Teaching with Light book. I use it with the mudras in my wellness workshops with educators, and I'm moving on to retreats. I just led a 2-hour forest bathing walk, and from Massachusetts, and we had a beautiful walk in the woods. And it definitely physically, it's not your mind, it's your physical reaction to the forest. It's much more popular now than when I started using it with the teachers, and it's called nature therapy. And there are many other ways. So it's not physical exercise. It's not going out and a run. It's not talking with your friend as you're walking in the forest. It's actually taking a slow walk, taking in. So the bathing part is your senses. You're bathing yourself, all of your senses. And when you take a walk with that intention, you do shift and you can feel your body relax in a different way. Now, everyone might not be near a forest. I know I have people from Arizona and Tennessee, all different places, but the research is showing that even putting a plant in your office, you're looking out the window. I've been on forest walks in the Azores, which is beautiful, with a certified guide in Vancouver, Victoria, Canada, and at home in my own backyard. So I'll share a video in the resources at the end of the session that you can actually see me leading a forest walk. And I hope that you will use this strategy to calm yourself down. And it can even be, I hesitate to say using the computer with the technology because we're trying to get away from it for a bit, but it has shown benefits that even you focusing and visualizing trees. So I'd like you to think about this. Do you have a favorite tree when you were a child? Was there something about nature when you were younger? Just jot it down when we have time for questions in your pause. I'm curious to know what trees speak to you, and are there trees in your yard that you want to have a conversation with? So just keep that in mind and jot it down. All right, let's go on to our third strategy, which I have been using for decades. And this strategy is called Listen to Your Inner Voice through journaling. And I recommend paper pencil journaling for this. I am a journaler, a writer. And there's a process that I learned maybe 20 years ago by a writer. His name was Peter Elbow. Some of you might know him. And he had a free writing process where you don't think about the grammar, the anything. You just ask yourself a question and write. So, and it may be, what should I do tomorrow? How can I take care of my well-being? Liz Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love, and she's written Big Magic, which I love. She has a Substack out now that is called Letters from Love. And they're all prompts of this process of journaling that she's been doing for decades, but now she's making it more public. And this free write process allows us to access our own inner wisdom to get some clarity as to what we might do to support ourselves. So her prompt, because of her Substack, is, what would love say to you today? So it's all from positive angle. Liz, have you heard of this Substack or anything like this with the writing process?
I have, and I think it's so great to have a simple question to jump off from. I wonder if there's a question, Carol, that you would write about in relation to the classroom or being a teacher.
Yes. And so all of my books actually have prompts. And as I looked back at them, I was like, oh my God, I have like bubble sheet prompts in the mentoring book for mentors. But sometimes they are a prompt that is, I'm most frustrated about. Because sometimes you need clarity around things that are frustrating you. And even the question that we had earlier about finding the positive people, like journaling about that. Like, what could I do to bring more positive relationships into my life? Free writing it, join a book club, go to the library, like it will start to pour out of us because we don't always have to ask other people. We can ask ourselves. So those little short prompts that I put in my other books, what's frustrating you? What are you most enjoying today? Again, that's accessing the PERMA because we create the prompt. Like we write the prompt. And I found that Letters from Love was, wow. That was like me doing that first prompt was, what would love say to me? Because we're always looking on improving and trying to make things, solving problems instead of just acknowledging. So I encourage us to write the prompts, well, even a prompt for today, like, how could I help myself in my own well-being? Answer it. We can answer it ourselves. So my answer is rest more. I just listened to a TED Talk today, and I don't have the whole title, but the TED Talk was the difference between a good night's sleep and a rest. And it was so interesting because it isn't, as the presenter was speaking, she's like, did you ever go to bed and have 8 hours sleep and you wake up the next day and you're still exhausted? So the sleep didn't give you the rest. So some of these strategies I'm sharing today are about rest. It's like a mudra pause for 1 minute is considered a rest. A short forest walk, I open my back door and just look at the trees in the backyard and say, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Those break this mind cycle of, oh, I've got to pick up the laundry, I've got to do da, because our minds are listers. Um, I consider myself like a manifesting generator. It's like I generate work. So all of this is perfect that I am doing this talk because I need this as much as the people who are tuning in. I don't have all the answers. So the free writing and the tools for journaling, I recommend highly. Liz, any comment about the three that we've talked about? Are they resonating with you? I know you and I know you know my work, but you haven't heard me talk about it this way.
Absolutely. As your question, what is one thing to do? I was thinking about forest bathing and just spending some time out in nature. But just in general, this all feels so timely as we're wrapping up the year and thinking about how we'll reflect on it and then rest as we prepare for the new year. So thank you, Carol. It's such wisdom.
Thanks. Thanks, Liz. All right, so let's take another moment, see if somebody else has a question, a little pause, a little reflect. How is this sitting with you? Is anything showing up that is making sense? Is there some clarity that you need from me before we kind of wind down our session and think about how do we bring it into our lives? And I'll just give it a moment, see if somebody has a direction they'd like me to take. Right. So let's kind of wind down. And if you have questions, just type them in.
Oh,
So here's, oh, you got one?
yes. And
Okay.
thank you, Charmaine. Charmaine says, my students have been asking to go on a walk. Would this help them focus more? So maybe the connection by some movement, getting outside and focus.
I love that. And all of this can be done with students. Everything that we're doing, my role is always to teach the teachers first. And then once you can do it, then you can teach it to the students. So my only suggestion would be, Charmaine, go out and do a forest walk yourself and feel it. So then you can share with the students. And I am going to share some resources with you in the chat. So you'll see me leading a walk, so you'll hear my language. And there are my favorite books. I would learn it, but it's not complicated. It's quiet and it's students looking and taking in through their senses. What do you smell? What do you see? And they start looking up at the tops of the trees and they start noticing things that they didn't notice because they're not chatting. It's not a physical walk, it's a bath of taking in through their senses. I love that idea. Yes, thank you so much. So I want to say this, and then I'm going to show you. I have some gifts for you that are going to be sent to you with the recording. I just want to end the session with wisdom and honoring our experienced educators. Of course, my mind is in it right now because I'm really looking at all our late career people who have served this profession for so many years. And as they move into, quote, retirement phase, I don't want to lose them. I want them to stay and lead forest walks for students as volunteers. There's so much that can be done, and there's so much wisdom. And I want to just give a shout out to the Teacher to Teacher podcast. There are so many guests on that podcast. You can still get it on Spotify and Apple. And these are conversations with wise teachers who are sharing, and Teaching with Light are my stories and people who were interviewed. And then when I started teaching, has 36 experienced teachers sharing their wisdom and their wellness strategies. Like, how did they survive and stay in teaching? But most importantly, I want you to tap into your own wisdom wherever you are in the developmental continuum. If you're a beginning teacher and you're here, bravo. If you're a mid-career teacher who's a mentor, bravo. Tap in. And if you're late career, don't give up. We still need you. And there's lots for us to do together through positivity and through the International Mentoring Association and all of these groups. There's more positive out there than you think when you start to focus on it. So I thank you for that. So you're going to get, I think this slide, yes. Okay. So in the follow-up email, your PERMA V is for vitality, which I love. My colleague Rick Evans, who is the founder of Thriving K-12 Leadership, created 2 handouts with all kinds of cool self-care, positivity, relationship building activities that you are free to use. He's allowing me that I'm giving them to you. The other thing you're going to get are 10 mudras. So you got one of them, 2 of them. And these are mudras that align with the Teaching with Light book. And there's one for each chapter, but I did them on YouTube. And they're 3 minutes long, and you're going to see me outside in nature. They're kind of crazy good. And I will give you a gesture and a mantra, like be the wave or follow your heart or pay it forward. So you will get a mantra with the mudra. And then in my last forest bathing walk, I actually had the cable TV person came and participated in the entire walk, and he made a video. So you will see me in action, like a 5-minute clip explaining forest bathing that you can share with your students. It's public. And then another person in my forest bathing was a writer, and she wrote an article for Cape Cod Healthcare and interviewed a medical doctor and me. And we are both featured in this article showing the benefits of forest bathing. So I hope you will enjoy those resources. And really, the goal is for you to do something. I hope this inspired you to pick something that will minimize your stress. So here's how you can contact me. That QR code will take you to my website. Otherwise, you can just mentoringinaction.com and contact me, and that will get to me. And I have lots of resources for teachers and books and podcasts, and I've been doing this for a while, so I'm paying it forward. Liz, do you have any closing thoughts about the session today? What's your takeaway?
Absolutely. I think I'm definitely going to try at least one, if not all 3 of these strategies. Just such a good way to get grounded. I already feel more grounded after the mudras. So thank you, Carol, for this fabulous session. And thank you for everyone who joined us today and participated. We're going to get to the giveaways here shortly, but Carol, one final slide here I'll let you speak to before we jump
Yeah.
to the closing.
Yes, before we pick the door prize winners. I just love this quote by Ella Baker. Um, I know that we can get, you know, very jaded. It's hard right now. I'm not going to pretend. My 2 sons are teachers, so I know what's going on. My husband was a former teacher. I hang out with teachers. I love teachers. But I feel those of you that showed up today, it's about finding our light so we can give it. to help others find their way. And if we give light, people will find their way. I am not giving up. I am continuing the work, and I hope you will join me. I look forward to hearing from you. Email anytime. And I hope that you will follow up and just do it. Just do it. Just open the door and talk to a tree.
Thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate your time. Thank you, Carol, for your wisdom. And we hope that everyone has a fabulous week and a wonderful holiday.